It often starts so small, doesn't it? A little whisper, a look that lasts a bit too long, or a text message you weren't supposed to see. How fast can paradise crumble into your own private hell? Just picture it. You're in the happiest bubble of your life, your honeymoon, celebrating a brand new beginning, and then, in a heartbeat, your entire world just shatters. You know, some studies even say that finding out about infidelity can hit you like actual trauma, kind of like PTSD. Now, imagine dealing with that kind of shock with the golden sun of your supposed paradise shining down on you. This isn't just some story about a vacation gone sideways. It's about what happens when trust completely implodes, right when you're feeling your most open and vulnerable. We were that couple, you know? The one people looked at and maybe felt a little envious of. We'd dated for years, had this beautiful wedding. Every single detail was obsessed over until it was perfect. Our love story truly felt like something out of a movie. And the honeymoon? That was meant to be the big, sweeping scene, the culmination of it all in pure, blissful happiness. We picked this incredibly secluded island resort, the kind you drool over in travel brochures, turquoise waters, white sand beaches, private villas. And those first few days, they were perfect. Just like we'd always dreamed. We'd spend hours just talking, planning our future, the family we wanted, the whole life we were so ridiculously excited to build together. There was this feeling of absolute certainty, like everything was perfectly right. He was my rock, my everything, the person I trusted with my whole soul, the one I'd chosen to do life with. The air was literally thick with love, with promise, with the sweet smell of tropical flowers and the gentle sound of waves. It honestly felt like we were the only two people on the entire planet, tucked away in our perfect little bubble of happiness. Looking back at it now, that naivety is almost physically painful. The pure, unadulterated joy of those first days makes such a cruel, stark contrast to everything that happened next. It was a dream, and like any dream, it was fragile, so terrifyingly easy to break. It was subtle at first. So subtle, I almost talked myself into believing I was just imagining things. You know that weird little nagging feeling you get deep in your stomach? The one you try to brush off as just being stressed or tired or maybe a little too sensitive. Well, it started with his phone. It had always been an open book between us, but suddenly, it was always face down. He started taking these longer walks by himself, saying he needed to clear his head. Which was strange, because what on earth was there to clear? We were in paradise, for crying out loud. Then came the hushed phone calls. He'd slip out onto the balcony, his voice super low, almost a mumble. If I asked who it was, the answers were always so vague. Oh, just work stuff. A friend needing some advice. Little things, right? Things you can easily explain away. But they started to stack up, like tiny pebbles slowly forming this uncomfortable, heavy weight in my chest. I remember one evening so clearly. We were having dinner right on the beach. He just seemed distant. His eyes were darting around, not really looking at me. I tried to draw him in, talk about our day, what we might do tomorrow. He'd just nod, giving me one-word answers. That easy laughter we always shared, those comfortable silences we used to have, they were gone, replaced by this awkward, thick tension, this feeling of something huge and unspoken just hanging there in the air. I kept telling myself I was being paranoid. This was our honeymoon. This was *us*. Betrayal just wasn't a word in our story. That first crack wasn't some dramatic, shattering moment. It was more like a tiny, almost invisible hairline fracture. But it was one that threatened the entire foundation of what I believed was real. That uneasy feeling just grew stronger every single day. Sleep? Forget about it. My mind would race, replaying these tiny moments, desperately searching for clues I might have missed. Was it the way he glanced at that woman by the pool? Or that sudden need for privacy when he was always so open before? I started to feel like an intruder on my own honeymoon, in my own relationship. The stunning scenery all around us began to feel like some kind of cruel joke, a beautiful backdrop to this silent, internal horror movie playing out in my head. One afternoon, he said he was going for a swim. I stayed back in the villa, this knot of anxiety just tightening and tightening in my chest. His phone was right there, lying on the bedside table. I had never, ever in my entire life considered looking through his phone. It felt like such a massive violation, a betrayal of the trust I still desperately wanted to believe we had. But those whispers of doubt had grown too loud. I couldn't ignore them anymore. My hand was actually trembling as I picked it up. It wasn't even locked. My heart was pounding like crazy. What was I even hoping to find? Or maybe the better question was, what was I absolutely terrified of finding? And then, there it was. A whole thread of messages. Not just one or two, but a long series. With a name I didn't recognize at all. The way they talked to each other was intimate, familiar, full of inside jokes and plans. Plans that definitely didn't include me. Plans that, from the looks of it, had been going on for a while. Each message was like a tiny shard of glass, piercing right through that perfect, idyllic facade we had. I kept scrolling, my vision blurring with tears I hadn't even realized were falling. There were photos, laughing selfies, intimate moments, all of them time-stamped. Some from during our engagement. Some were even taken while we were planning our wedding. The world just tilted on its axis. The beautiful villa, the sound of the waves crashing, the sweet scent of flowers. It all became this nauseating, sickening blur. This wasn't just some stupid fling. This was a whole other life. A life I had absolutely no idea even existed. Discovering something like this, especially during a time that's supposed to be about ultimate bonding, like your honeymoon, can trigger a serious trauma response. Sometimes people call it post-infidelity stress disorder, or PISD. I felt it right then and there. The shock, the absolute disbelief, and then this dawning, horrifying realization that everything I believed to be true just wasn't. The unraveling wasn't just about finding out about an affair. It was about the complete unraveling of my reality, my past, and my entire future. He walked back into the villa, humming a little tune, a towel slung over his shoulder, a relaxed smile on his face from his swim. That smile. It was like a mask, and I had just seen the horrifying, ugly truth hidden right beneath it. I was just sitting there on the bed, his phone still in my hand, the screen lit up with all the damning evidence. The second he saw my face, then the phone, his smile just faltered. The humming stopped. All the vibrant, beautiful colors of our tropical paradise seemed to drain away, replaced by this cold, stark, empty gray. "What's this?" My voice was barely a whisper, choked with a pain so deep it felt like I'd been physically punched. He looked at the phone, then back at me. For a moment, there was just silence. This heavy, suffocating silence, broken only by the distant, almost mocking sound of the ocean. And then came the denial, the stammered excuses. "It's not what it looks like. It's complicated. She's just a friend." But the evidence was right there, undeniable, irrefutable. The calm I'd somehow managed to hold on to until that moment just completely shattered. The questions started pouring out of me, a torrent of pure disbelief, white-hot anger, and absolute heartbreak. Who is she? How long has this been going on? During our wedding planning? Seriously? On our honeymoon? The confrontation wasn't a shouting match, not at first anyway. It was more like this desperate, agonizing plea for answers, for some kind of explanation that could somehow make sense of something so senseless. The person I thought I knew, the man I had just married, seemed to just disappear right before my eyes, replaced by a total stranger. This was it, the climax. The moment paradise wasn't just lost. It was completely obliterated, turned into nothing but ash. The dream had irrevocably, undeniably turned into a nightmare. Have you ever had a moment that just completely flipped your perception of someone you deeply trusted? How do you even start to process something so huge? I'd genuinely love to hear your thoughts and experiences in the comments below. Sometimes just knowing you're not the only one going through it can make a world of difference. The days that followed were just a blur of raw, unfiltered emotion. That idyllic honeymoon suite, it became a pressure cooker of grief, anger, and utter confusion. One minute I'd be sobbing my heart out, completely uncontrollable, and the next I'd be filled with this cold, hard rage. Sleep was a joke. Food tasted like cardboard, like ash. The beautiful island, which was supposed to be our paradise, felt more like a prison. The pain was just all-consuming. It wasn't only the loss of the relationship as I knew it. It was the loss of the future we had so carefully planned, the loss of the person I truly thought he was. My self-esteem just hit rock bottom. Was I not enough? What did she have that I didn't? Trust, the absolute bedrock of our marriage, had been pulverized into dust. How could I ever trust him again? How could I ever bring myself to trust anyone again? I even learned that the brain chemistry of love, all that dopamine and oxytocin that makes you feel bonded and happy, gets massively disrupted by infidelity, leading to symptoms that feel a lot like withdrawal. It honestly felt like a physical illness. We had to cut the honeymoon short. The silence on the flight home was deafening, thick with unspoken accusations and just immeasurable sorrow. Coming back to the home we'd built together, the home that was supposed to be filled with all that newlywed joy, felt like walking into a cold, empty mausoleum. Every photo, every gift, every single shared memory was now tainted, a painful, sickening reminder of the betrayal. People who know about these things often describe this period as going through the 5 stages of grief: denial, anger, bargaining, depression, and then, hopefully, eventually, acceptance. I felt like I was cycling through the first 4 of those at lightning speed. That intense emotional pain often came with a total collapse of self-esteem, this feeling of being emotionally flattened, with these recurring images and memories of the betrayal just constantly causing distress. That was the immediate aftermath, like looking into a shattered mirror that reflected a broken, unrecognizable reality. So what happens after paradise is well and truly lost? That's the impossible question we were suddenly facing. Do you even try to glue the tiny fragments of a shattered relationship back together, knowing deep down it will never, ever be the same? Or do you just walk away carrying those scars with you, and try to build something entirely new from the ruins? Believe me, there's no easy answer. The path to recovery, if that's even on the cards, is often described as a total roller coaster of emotional highs and lows. You might have these moments where you try to reconcile, kind of like a reconciliation honeymoon, only to come crashing back down into anger and sadness. For us, the weeks and months that followed were filled with incredibly painful conversations, so many tears, and this agonizing process of trying to understand the why of it all. Why risk everything? Why choose to deceive? The partner who was unfaithful might go through cycles of feeling remorse and trying to make things right. But if that remorse isn't truly genuine, if they don't really take accountability, then trying to rebuild is a monumental task, if not completely impossible. And the consequences of an affair aren't just emotional, are they? There can be financial costs, therapy, legal fees if things go that far, even just lost productivity because of the sheer emotional turmoil you're in. The stress can seriously impact your physical health too, for both people involved. We had to face all of that. The journey of healing, whether you do it together or apart, seems to happen in stages. That initial shock, then the emotional chaos, then the attempts at either rebuilding or just accepting what happened, and finally, eventually, finding some kind of new normal. But getting stuck in all that anger or grief can lead to long-term bitterness and make it incredibly hard to form healthy relationships down the line. For me, being betrayed during our honeymoon, a time that's supposed to be about ultimate closeness and connection, just felt particularly cruel. It struck right at the very heart of our commitment before it even really had a chance to breathe. The what-ifs and if-onlys were my constant, unwelcome companions. Could I have seen it sooner? Was I just totally blind? Or was I simply betrayed by someone I loved and trusted with my entire being? This whole journey through heartbreak and the search for some kind of healing is incredibly tough. If this story resonated with you, or if you're navigating your own complicated emotional challenges, maybe consider subscribing to our channel. We talk more about love, loss, and finding resilience. Your support really helps create a community where these important, sometimes difficult conversations can happen. A honeymoon affair isn't just some dramatic soap opera plot. It's a profound, deep breach of trust that happens at a moment when you are at your most vulnerable. It changes absolutely everything. The future you so meticulously planned just evaporates, and you're left standing there in the rubble, trying to even figure out which way is up. The emotional aftermath is a long, tough road, paved with trauma, grief, and that slow, often painful process of rebuilding your sense of self, whether that's with or without the person who caused all the devastation. Whether a couple decides to try and rebuild or to go their separate ways, an experience like this leaves a mark that never truly fades. Paradise, once it's lost in such a devastating way, can never really be reclaimed in its original innocent form. Instead, the hope, I think, lies in finding a new landscape, a new understanding of what love and trust mean, and a new kind of resilience, one that's forged in the fires of profound heartbreak. The real question isn't just about what comes after paradise is lost, but about who you become in the process of finding your way out of all that wreckage.